This hotel right here is where Peter Gotti's longtime mistress killed herself after a brutal phone argument. Okay, everybody, this is mooneydashcam. Tonight we are in Nassau County, Long Island, in Uniondale, and we're going to be talking about Peter Gotti and the relationship that he had with his longtime mistress, even though he also had a longtime wife, and how that ended tragically in suicide. So let's flip this around and get into it. Okay, the address that we're going to tonight is 699 Dibble Drive. Technically it's in Uniondale, but anyone from around here would tell you that it's in Westbury. This is the hotel that it happened at. The year that it happened is 2004, March 29th. Let's get into the backstory a little bit before we get there. John Gotti's older brother, Peter Gotti, and Marjorie Alexander met at a Queen's diner in 1989 while they were both married, and they claim to have only been friends until the year 2000 when things got romantic. Like I said, they were still both married. Peter Gotti's wife hated him at the time. This is during the brief time from 1999 to 2002 that Peter Gotti was acting boss while John Gotti was in prison. That's of the Gambinos, of course, if you didn't know. Then, in June of 2002, days before John Gotti's death, Peter is indicted on federal racketeering charges. Now, Marjorie didn't only attend the court dates, but she visited Peter frequently and even wrote the judge 6 letters explaining how good of a man Peter was and kind of going in depth on their relationship and how she knows Peter better than pretty much any other person. Meanwhile, Peter's wife of 40 years wrote to the judge to give him the maximum sentence. So, I don't know if that speaks to the kind of guy Peter was. He's kind of known as like the dumb Don, like the stupid, like he's known as like a joke. That's his reputation, mostly, if you look into him at all. Now, all these things that Marjorie did are not typical of a mob mistress. She was already way more public than a usual mob girlfriend. Although she was very depressed and distraught over Peter possibly getting 15 years at 64 years old, she was taking Prozac as a result, and she described it as a life-saving medication, which now kind of, like, everyone's on Prozac. It's one of the most prescribed antidepressants. So it's not that crazy that she was on Prozac. But back then, it was like, oh my God, she was on Prozac. She was a crazy person. Well, that was weird, but I just passed a party. It's Memorial Weekend, everyone. It's a Friday night. I'm out here filming for you guys. So, she wrote to the judge, I know Peter for 14 years. No one else is closer to him than I. Their relationship was pushed into the public even more after it was revealed in court details of their affair. So it wasn't really out there. People had like their suspicions and stuff, but then it was put out there against everything they wanted. Now, this is all fine by Peter. I'm sure it pissed him off a little bit. Until Marjorie spoke to the media on Monday, March 29th, 2004. She said, I did not fall in love with the wrong guy. I am proud of loving him. I took a chance in life. Life's about taking chances. Now I'm destroyed. So after this comes out in the press, that day, Peter learns about it, calls Marjorie's cell phone, and flips out on her. We don't know the exact content of that phone call. I really wish we did. It would add a lot to the story. But it's just simply not out there. And if someone does know about it, I'd love to hear about it because I couldn't find it. So the main point Peter Gotti got across in that phone call was that he's done and he doesn't want to see her anymore. Now, the fact that this phone call happened doesn't only exist within the jail records, within the prison records. Her husband, Marjorie's husband, confirmed the phone call because I assume they were friendly because they were out shopping together at the time. They have kids together, so maybe they had to be friendly. Now, this is over a year after Peter was sentenced to 25 years for money laundering, racketeering, and extorting. One of the people that he extorted is Steven Seagal for about $3 million, or they tried to at least. So it's not like he would be getting out to continue a regular relationship with her anytime soon. It would still be a prison relationship, but either way, she was destroyed by this phone call. 3 hours after that phone call, she checks into the Red Roof Inn, that's where we're going now, at 5:29 p.m. I don't know if I'm going to show you guys the maneuver I just pulled, but I made a wrong turn, and I didn't want to make that turn, so I didn't. And we're back. My GPS has to catch up with me because no one's ever pulled that maneuver on Apple Maps before. So as I was saying, she checks in at 5:29 p.m. She alters her name and tells the desk that she had some writing to do and to not disturb her. She left the room at 7 and came back at 8. They assume it was to mail letters. Her family in Rockville Center reported her missing on Tuesday afternoon. The letters she sent were suicide notes, one to her husband and sons, and the other one was to her friend. Now, once her friend got it, she called the police right away. This is on Wednesday. As that's going on, around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, a maid tries to enter the room. She can't. She then gets help from a manager who finds her dead on the bed in the same clothes that she was wearing when she talked to the media on that Monday when she got that phone call. A white top and faded blue jeans. She had covered her head with a plastic bag and duct taped it around her neck. Next to her was an empty bottle of sleeping pills. This is actually the Red Roof Inn to the left here. Back when this happened, there wasn't all these shrubs in front. I'll give you a naked look at the hotel. Now, this is kind of a seedy hotel. It's right off the Parkway. It's like probably a cheaper hotel. We'll do a loop around here and then I'll hop out. So like I said, next to her was an empty bottle of sleeping pills. Some reports say she overdosed on antidepressants, but I don't think that's actually what happened. And next to her also was a suicide note. And then she left another note expressing her apologies to the maid for killing herself in the room, and she left a $100 tip. Now, that's maybe the most respectful way to go about that situation. I don't really know if $100 is the amount of money that makes up for that trauma, but it's better than $0, right? I hate to be light and make like jokes on these kind of videos, but how else do you tell the story in a way that's, I don't know, entertaining and not sad? We'll park here and we'll record a little bit. So this is the hotel that this all went down in. I can't imagine the mindset she had to be in as she's pulling up to this place to check in, knowing what she's gonna do. Having the letters written out. This place is actually pretty packed right now. I've actually been here once before to buy a car from about right there. So this happened in room 301. I'll show you a picture of the front of the room. Now, in the garbage, they found a draft of one of the suicide notes she was writing. I guess she decided she didn't want to write it that way or mess up or whatever, so she threw it out. The investigators said no one person or events were mentioned in the suicide notes, so Peter Gotti got a little bit of relief from that. I don't want to walk too far from my truck, but I will. I will walk too far from my truck. This isn't just a regular red roof, it's a red roof plus. Look at that. Alright, we'll go back around. Now, Peter only hears about this in Brooklyn Federal Lockup through other inmates who saw the news. And in quotes, this guy's distraught, there are tears running down his face. He even asked for meds to help him sleep after hearing this. So he was pretty torn up over it. I'm sure it was not a regular fight that they had, but it's a fight that they had that he maybe assumed they would get over or whatever. But you don't have a fight assuming it's the last time you'll ever speak to the person. That's a horrible way to have your last conversation go. I can't imagine that. But also, did he treat her the best? I don't know. These gangsters, how do they treat their mistresses? It's not really known. There's not really shining reviews on that, you know? Gotti told his lawyer, if there's anyone closer to an angel than her, I'd really like to meet them. The lawyer, for some reason, stresses that they started as friends before they were romantic, and then says Gotti obviously sends his condolences to the family. A little bit weird wording there. Obviously. I don't know, seems kind of odd. 36 HD channels. I got a buckaroo with this place. Say hello to the truck. Oh, also, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. Follow me on Instagram, @mooneydashcam. I post in there pretty much every single day. Sometimes pictures of the truck. Any crime scene photos that can't go onto YouTube end up on the Instagram, so check that out. Don't forget to leave suggestions for future videos in the comments. What's this section over here? And hit that notification button so you guys can see exactly when I post a new video. All right, let's get back in the truck and finish this off. So of course, whenever there's a suicide like this, especially with the Mafia, people are not going to believe that it's a real suicide. People are going to believe that, oh, it was all set up. Who commits suicide like that? This is obviously the Mafia trying to wipe her out after she spoke to the media. I don't know. I don't know if that's all true. Police said that this was very indicative of a normal suicide. People said that the Gottis paid off the police. They have in the past for other things, but they're saying they paid them off to make it seem like it wasn't an abnormal suicide and to, you know, not report on the evidence that it would have been a homicide. I just don't know. It's been a lot of years. Nothing has come out about it. I know they did a little bit of an investigation because they kind of have to in these situations, especially since her boyfriend was Peter Gotti. But someone said at this point, it's really a regular suicide besides for the fact that she was dating Peter Gotti. This just goes to show that the mob life doesn't just affect the people that they're out there extorting and killing. This affects everybody around. This affects the neighborhood. This affects relationships within, wives and girlfriends and kids and their families, and all these people are affected by a lot of the stuff these guys do. So it's not just like, oh, the mob only hurts the mob, so it's not a big deal. They only go after people that wanted to be involved with them and blah, blah, blah. They eat their own. Did this girl deserve to die? Like, to be so, who knows? Could it have happened anyway? Yes, mental health problems are a real thing. People struggle with them. Back then, it wasn't recognized as much as a real thing. But, I don't know. What do you guys think? This is a tough story to film because it doesn't feel like much of a story, but I know it's interesting enough that some of you guys will enjoy it. And I know it's one of those less covered stories that you guys enjoy. So, I hope you enjoyed. That's pretty much everything I have to tell you about the situation, and I'll see you in the next one.